My name is Dr. Diane Mani. I am a mom, wife, clinical psychologist, and coach to the modern mama. My passion is to help modern moms step into their true potential and reinvent themselves so they can live a life they absolutely love. I truly believe that every mom's journey is unique, and I want to inspire moms to own their journey and know it's possible to thrive. Together, I want us to reinvent motherhood. So this is why I'm so excited to bring you this series. Each week, I will spotlight a new mom who I believe embodies the reinvented mom. These women's motherhood journeys are all beautifully different, and they all agreed to share their insights and best advice with all of you to own your own too. So sit back, listen, watch, and enjoy. My name is Dr.
All right, well, welcome back to the Reinventing Motherhood Spotlight series. I am so incredibly excited to be bringing you Miss Sara Fraschetti Williams. She is a mom, a wife, an amazing, funny science middle school teacher. She is also the CEO and co-founder of the San Diego Mom Squad, and also a top leader in Rodan and Fields. So I am just so incredibly excited to bring her on because she is just a powerhouse of a woman. I am so excited to finally connect with her more directly because I connected with her through just coming to San Diego, finding a mom's group that I felt really aligned with the person that I am. And I found that San Diego Mom Squad was just that. And so her and I friended each other on Facebook and on Instagram. And so now we've gotten to know each other a little bit better in that regard. And so following along with her, she is just this bright light all the time. And even now connecting with her more directly, I just feel it through the camera. So without further ado, Miss Sara, can you please tell us a little bit more about yourself?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, how much time do we have, right?
All the time in the world.
Right, I'm like, and furthermore. So I was, well, born and raised in San Diego. I'm one of those unicorn San Diegans, right? Not many of us. We're all transplants, transient.
Yep.
But I'm born and raised San Diego. So is my husband, actually. We went to rival high schools, did not meet until we were in our 30s. So for a quick second, I'm like, you went where? What? And I have two younger brothers who I am so immensely proud of, fiercely protective of, and loyal to. I love those boys. What else about me? Grew up here in Encinitas, went to La Costa Canyon High School. After that, and I was a nerd. I always like telling people, like, I was a dork. I was that girl in high school. Yeah. I'm sure a lot of you guys, and you can relate, Diane, maybe. No, you were probably, I don't know. I was ASB girl. I was athlete, right?
Like, we were in band at one point.
Yeah, like we were popular in the good sense of the word, like the traditional sense. Like people knew us, but I definitely was not cool. Like people wouldn't think there's cool, right? But I had a great time in high school, but I had a better time in college. I went to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, where I played lacrosse. It was the best decision of my life to play that sport in college. It was club. We won national championships, like 7 years in a row. Best experience of my life. And I give that a lot of credit. And those sisters who are still my dear sisters, like we have a text thread, text all the time. But I give that sport a ton of credit for where I'm at, because when you're on a team with women who are badass themselves, you have this innate, you just have this confidence that's
you start lifting each other up in that way.
Yes. Absolutely. You know how to empower other women and what that feels like at a young age. And so you seek that out wherever you go, you know? And I remember my first job out of college, that was one of the questions. I put lacrosse on my resume, and I worked in title for a little while, but shortly after that, I worked for a rock star named Roberta Ray, single mother. She owned her own recruiting firm. And Dad told me, he's like, you need to work for Roberta. She is incredible. So I did. I learned the ropes with recruiting. I was in luxury recruiting for 10 years. I had clients like Prada and Fendi and Michael Kors. They had no idea, Diane, how young I was. Like I would lower my voice on the phone. So they thought I was older, and I'm working with New York executives. And yeah, it was real, but I only did that for 10 years because it burns you out. You don't take vacations. And then I transitioned to teaching 8 years ago. So I'm that dorky ASB girl again in that science class, but I love that it's my second career because I can truly tell these kids, this is when you're going to use this. This is when you're going to apply it. You know, I have that real world experience that I bring into my classroom all the time. I mean, when these kids have late papers or late projects, I say, okay, come to my desk. Oh, what? I'm like, get over here. And you're going to say, I'm sorry it's late. I messed up. It'll never happen again. Can I please have an extension? Like, it's just, I love bringing the real world into the classroom because that's where it sticks, you know? So
you just don't, I'm just going to pause because you just don't hear that a lot, you know, with teachers, especially just like this fire that I hear coming from you in terms of the way that you want to inspire these kids, you know? And really bringing, even if it's your second career, really thinking of like, how am I going to take all of what I've learned in this first career and continue to grow that in what I'm doing now, and continue to grow that in the sense where I'm now hitting different generations and learning how to be out in the real world and have the same fire that I have and be inspired in that way. So that's absolutely wonderful. I love that so much.
Thank you. I mean, I do think that in this day and age, the age of Googling, these kids can search up the answers to anything.
I know.
So, you know, our real job is to teach resiliency and solution-based thinking, because as Tony Robbins said, any idiot can point out a problem. Right?
Yeah.
I don't use that terminology in my classroom, but I really do. We say on repeat, we are what? We are solution finders. I'm like, right. If you've got a problem, let's find a solution for it. Because I think those are the skill sets that will transfer to their future career, that will serve them. Rather than memorizing anatomy or memorizing photosynthesis, let's solve some problems, guys, and let's fall and let's get back up and be okay and comfortable in that. Dude, if I could make that my legacy, I'm happy with that.
It sounds like that's what you're doing.
I'm trying.
You're transferring that into the students, and you know, I see the energy, and I see some of the posts of the feedback that you get from your students, and you can just tell how much they respect you and how much you respect them as well. I think that's really what's coming across to me right now, is the amount of respect you have towards them and how that dynamic really does create a really safe space for them to grow and learn. How does this transfer over to motherhood for you? Tell us about your beautiful daughter and your husband and your life in that regard.
So my daughter's name is River. She just turned 4 in January. And dude, she's totally changed me since inception, since finding out I was going to be a mom, finally. And I'm happy to dive into that if time allows. But finally, there was this shift in me where I'm like, I have to do more. I need to do more. I'm not doing enough. I need to build something that that will make her proud. Yeah, I get emotional. Sorry. It's just, I get so emotional.
Yeah.
I'm really comfortable in getting watery eyed.
That's just good. There's nothing wrong with that at all.
Oh man. So, and I know any mom that watches this ever is going to know exactly what I'm talking about. I know you know what I'm talking about. You just have this urge and this calling to build for them. And for you, of course, for you.
Sure.
So she was born January 17th, 2017. And I was lucky enough to take 8 months off, Diane. I got to spend 8 months with that little chunker. And it was the best gift, I mean, ever. She's hilarious. She's fearless.
She is.
Oh my God.
I love her little snarky personality. And she is. She's like a tiny little, you said she's 4 going on like 14. It seems.
I'm any mother of a 4-year-old, you guys know. You know it. So but she's just the best ever. I love her. And my husband, Jason, works in pacemakers. I love that man so much. He puts up with me, which is amazing. He has a lot of patience. I tell him all the time, like, you are the best person for me because I can be a lot. I think a lot of us can be a lot. If we're honest, I'm a lot. I can get emotional. I can be reactive at times. I'm very passionate. And he's like the steady to my Eddie, right? The yin to my yang. And he I got to shout him out because he does so much around the house too that, you know, I hear other moms complain about, oh man, I wish he did more. And I'm like, oh, and I kind of go quiet because I'm like, I've got nothing to complain about. He was raised by a really incredible woman.
Mm-hmm.
Lucky.
I can resonate with that. You know,
Right?
I will admit there are moments where I will kind of carry on in that conversation of wanting my husband to do certain things more. But the reality is actually, I think I end up getting a little bit more quiet in those conversations, because what I have come to realize is that my husband and I, and we talk about this all the time, is that each of us has our different strengths in certain things. And so, you know, all day, every day, I will clean that house and I will do the laundry and do all those things that he's not wanting to do. But he will, he will make a mad, like, amazing spreadsheet of our
Yes.
finances and like take that garbage out and get out there and do all of the cars and do all of the stuff outside that I don't want to touch. And we don't even, it was interesting because I don't think that, like, thinking back, that we actually had this conversation where we were like, okay, you do this and I'm going to do this. It just kind of like fell into that. And then we've just let it be. And
Yeah.
it's been this like perfect combination. It's great. I love it. I love it. Absolutely.
So good. Yeah. And I honestly, I need to pick up more slack. Like, if I'm being really honest, domestically, I need to pick it up.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. But so tell us about your motherhood journey then. You know, you can go into as little or as much depth as you want to, wherever you want to begin with it, whether it was before River or at River, whatever makes sense for you.
So motherhood journey, gosh, it's interesting. So Jason and I was at a point right when we found out we had River, I was mentally in a place where I was probably not going to be a mom. And I'd come to peace with that. I really had. And if I was going to be a mom, I was going to adopt. Like, that was our reality. So motherhood is tricky because I know what a gift it is. It is so special. And sometimes I even hesitate to discipline her. It's so embarrassing, but sometimes I do, because I'm like, God, you're such a miracle. Like, you're such a miracle. So for Jason and I, our reality was, we were told we could not have kids. This wasn't in the cards. So they said, you've got two choices. Either you go down the IVF route and you've got a slim chance that will even work. You're still gonna have to pay for it, 30 to 40 grand. You know, so many moms know that journey. And you're gonna have to just hope and pray that it works. I'm like, I don't know if I can withstand that. I just don't know. So we talked to older couples of ours, a couple friends, who chose not to have children or didn't have children, and they made it sound pretty great. So I was like, okay, we'll just be really good aunts and uncles. That's going to be my path, and I'm totally at peace with that. And, you know, let's just start exploring adoption and looking into domestic or international and what that looks like. Just let's start learning about it. Yeah. So I had tabled biological motherhood for myself, totally tabled it, like rearview mirror. And of course, we hear this often. That's when I found out I was pregnant, and I actually kept it a secret from my husband for a week because I didn't want to tell him something and then take it away. You know? So I just kind of harbored that. And then I'll never forget it. I did this, I peed on the stick, and it was on Cinco de Mayo of 2016. And I'm like, Jace? He's like, yeah. I mean, out of the blue, not expecting it, not even in his brain. Yeah. I'm like, guess what? And I showed him the stick, and I've never seen a human happier. I've never seen a happier person, a happier man. He just like, what? Like joy. So motherhood for me started right then and there. Once my partner found out. And that year, though, was really scary. I got in 2 major accidents. I totaled 2 cars. I was rear-ended twice. I mean, what are the chances, right? Yeah. Stoplight both times. My brake lights worked just fine, and just got barreled into by Suburbans twice.
Oh my gosh.
It was crazy. The first one, I was in my Maxima. It was completely totaled, and rushed to the hospital. Because, you know, if you're carrying that little miracle and you're thinking, this is my one shot, Oh, talk about mama bear.
Yep.
Able to text.
Protection.
Oh, girl, like I was like, okay, I'm fine, we're good. And then it happened again about 2 months later. It was a drunk driver that time, and went straight to the hospital. Jason was a little tipsy. It was the funniest thing you've ever seen.
Oh,
He's like, my wife. I'm like, it's okay, babe. Let's just. So we got to the hospital with in and out, and baby was fine. She's a resilient little bugger. So once she came into this world, I'll never forget the moment. I just kept saying hi to her. Like, oh my God, you remember that moment? Do you remember that?
I do remember that moment. Absolutely.
That moment, meeting your baby.
Yep.
I told my husband I felt baptized. There's no other way to describe it. Even for people who've never been baptized, it's a baptism, it's a renewal, it's a rebirth.
Exactly.
I felt reborn the moment I met her, and it was a feeling of just rushing life, just all over me. And I'm like, this is the best feeling. It was so euphoric. So she's been my best friend. I take her everywhere, and I just want to make it the best life, because she's, needless to say, our one and only.
Yeah.
Unless we adopt down the road. So
man, I totally know that experience. Like I remember, yes, 100%. Like I remember, my husband and I, we have such a funny story in that we got together. So it sounds like you and your husband had rival high schools that you went to. My husband and I actually went to the same high school, different campuses, but similar to you, we didn't get together until much later. I think I was 28 when we got together, and he was 31, I think. And so yeah, late on, after like I had already gone through grad school, got my doctorate, all of that stuff. And so we were at this point in both of our lives where we decided that, oh, relationship. Yeah, that's the next step. Natural progression, right? But we were in such that space that everything was very fast paced, and all of our friends thought we were absolutely crazy because we got together in September of the year we got together. We moved in together in November of that year, and then got married that next November, and got pregnant by January. But so then, fast forward to us having the baby, and I remember being in the hospital. It was such a weird, having the baby, that the whole experience, like the hospital was impacted. Everything was like, they were telling me not to have the baby yet and to hold on. And so crazy.
Just
but
keep the baby in, Diane.
Keep the baby, literally, that is what they said. They said, try to keep the baby in. Try to keep the baby in. We don't have a doctor to deliver the baby yet because you're in this weird space right now.
Oh my gosh.
So lots of really funny things going on trying to keep a baby in. It was fine. But then when our son Maxwell was born, I was, exhausted and delirious. And I just remember looking down at him, and I have a picture because I'm picture neurotic, of him staring up at me at this very moment and smiling. And I remember melting. And exactly that, what you're describing, like I just felt like I was a whole new person. My life is now going to change. My life is now going to revolve around this little human being that I'm going to protect forever long. And that's how it's been.
Yeah.
So,
it's a rebirth. It really is. And every mom that would reach out would go, how are you? I'm like, I get it now.
Yeah.
I get it now. I'm sorry that I made fun of you for not coming out that night. I'm sorry that I didn't fully appreciate who you'd become, because I get it. You're almost initiated to this rad club in milliseconds, and everything clicks.
Yeah.
It's lovable.
I'm wondering, so even as you're naming that right now, with regard to like the friends and the transition from like the natural initiation into the motherhood club, I'm wondering what it was like for you, for the friends that didn't have kids, like what that dynamic was like when you would have to say no, or if you had that experience, because I know that was something that I had to deal with, was the split, like recognition that there were some friendships that I ended up having to fall away from because they didn't understand that. It was like oh, why can't you come out? Like, really? You can't just leave the baby? And I'm like, well,
You don't get it.
don't get it. I'm wondering if you had that experience and how you dealt with that.
Yeah. And again, I promised you I'd be really candid. I thought those women were so annoying. I remember being irritated, still am sometimes. I mean, I get irritated because I'm busy. Doing what?
Yeah.
Or the phone calls that will last a really long time. And I can't, again, I'm really admitting that I'm embarrassed to tell you this, but I'm just going to say it. On the phone, if they don't have kids, oh, and then furthermore about me, and then furthermore about me. And I'm like, I couldn't care any less right now. I don't care. It was weird. I didn't care about the stuff I used to care about. I love them. But we were on two different, not like this. We were just on two different planets.
Absolutely.
Completely. And I felt really annoyed. Super annoyed. I remember feeling that. Now, I have plenty of girlfriends who don't have kids, and I'm going to go to one of their birthdays soon. Actually, we just talked today. But I think that phase for me, I'm still in it gently. But in the beginning, I remember being like, we are on two different planets, my friend. You don't get it. Yeah, I mean,
I commend you for being on the phone. I got to a point where I just stopped answering my phone. And the people that have stuck now, like my son's going to be 8, the ones that have stuck get it. The friends that I have that, maybe don't have kids, or, one of my best friends, her daughter is 13 or 14, I think now. So it's still different planes in terms of her availability, my availability to talk. But the ones that have stuck understand that I'm going to have text conversations with you most of the time. And
voice text, right?
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
That's all we there. And I remember talking to my friend Kiara, who has 3 kids older than River. And one of our first conversations, I'm like, the kids can scream all day. It doesn't bother me anymore. Like it doesn't bother me. I'm embarrassed that it ever bothered me. I had a lot of apologizing to do. I did. So I think the way to cope with that, though, I have to give Tamra all the credit for SCMS. I think that's what helped me, was finding a safe place where I knew not a single woman at the table didn't have kids. So I knew everyone at the table through SCMS could relate, and they got it,
So back up and tell us more about SCMS, because obviously I found it and I love it. I admittedly, unfortunately, have not gotten to go to any of the events, because at the time that I found the group, it was right at the hit of the pandemic. And so it's this weird space of I'd love to go hang out, and yet this feels so scary. And as things have opened up, I think definitely at one point I want to get together, but I love what it represents. I love the community that it's built. And so what inspired the two of you, and how did that get created over time?
So it's all Tamra. I have to give her all credit, first and foremost, because it's true. This was her baby. And she can tell you more about the inception of her idea of why to break off, why to do her own. And it's all fabulous reasons. And I remember seeing a post, and I'm like, I want in. It was the very beginning. I'm like, I want in, because she's a work from home mom. I'm a work outside of the home mom. I thought both of us could balance and kind of bring everyone together, no matter what you do.
Yeah.
So I reached out to her. I'm like, I want in. I have ideas, because I was lonely as a mom. I did have a ton of friends who didn't have kids. And especially as a working mom outside the home, when in the crop, or even in the home. I don't know why I'm
such a different way of getting together and getting to know people.
Totally, because I can't go to these play groups that I keep seeing, and it was frustrating to me. So I suggested, the one thing I can put the feather I can put in my cap is that I suggested to Tamra, I said, I love the play groups. You are so organized, you're going to do all these things, but we need mom only events. And at first she was like, I don't think so. And she'll admit this. She's like, I don't think so. I'm like, okay, I'm telling you, I will go by myself until somebody comes, because I need to get the hell out of the house. And this was in January of 2020. I need to get away from my kid. As much as I love her, and I need to get away from my husband for a minute, and I need to be around other moms. So again, there's everyone at the table has that common denominator. And I remember Tamara, it took her like, I don't know, a few minutes, came back. She's like, okay, I think we need to do this. And I'm like, hell yeah, we need to do this. So in the beginning, the plan was to do once a month. And we expected like 3 people to show up. We had over 20 gals who didn't know each other show up. We were laughing and scratching until way too late. Thank goodness it was like a month before this all happened. But it was Diane, it felt so good. And I'm sorry you did that, dang it. But,
I know. And I'll get back to it. I know that those are coming back. And so I definitely want that as well. But I think I want to speak to what you were just naming right now, because as we've gone on talking about like how much we love our children and how much like they have changed our life, I think the honest truth here is that we existed before them, and we also are our own person, and we are human, and we need space. And so I think that that is something that I hear way too many moms struggle with, to give themselves permission to do, right? This idea of it's okay. You can openly admit that you want to be away from your kid, and it's not because you're a bad mom or there's something wrong with you. It is you are doing it to be a better mom, because if not, you are strung out and stressed out and all those things, and you are not going to show up the way that you want to. And so huge advocate for that. And I think that what you're talking about is so powerful, in that you bring these women together that probably had that idea in their mind, that they're feeling maybe ambivalent about it. But then you get kind of, even when you're talking about your lacrosse team, the inspiration of it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Yes. Oh yeah, it's okay. It's fine. This is all good. And so it just like rewires the way that we think about motherhood in that way. And so much appreciation for that group and what it does for moms in all facets. Like you're talking about the single mom, the working mom, the work from home mom, the adopted mom, like has adopted kids, all the things. I think that that's the beauty of the group that you guys have, is that it's so inclusive. And I just really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Talk with me, you're naming the working mom aspect of who you are, and tell me how you find yourself balancing that whole thing, you know, between working as a science teacher and between Rodan and Fields even now.
Yeah, with all of it. You know, one of my RNF sisters, she's a badass. She's been in the business for 12 years. Her name's Romy Newstad, and she's a former attorney, former PR exec. She lives here in San Diego, actually, in Del Mar. She would just giggle if she knew I was talking about this, but she wrote a book called You Can Have It All, Just Not at the Same Damn Time. And it's true. And I read it and I'm like, Romy, you're so spot on. Because you get that question, how do you do it all? Well, I do it all, but I don't do it all at the same time. Yes. Right. Like I don't have all these plates I'm juggling. I, balance one plate at a time, and then I move on to the next plate. That's really important to grasp, because if you were trying to juggle all those, you would drive yourself mad. And quite frankly, sometimes I table some of them. It just depends on what's important to me that day. And I think it's also important to note that you can do a little at a time. You don't need to conquer the whole damn mountain in a week, month, a year, like baby steps. How do you eat a whale? One bite at a time. So I think that if there are moms who want to do more, they can give themselves grace and do more, but a little at a time is fine. And do what's important to you at that time, that day. Right?
All of what you're saying, I think, like, I love that you're like busting through this myth of like, I need to do it all, because there's not a period there. Like, that's what I like about what you're saying right now, is that there's not a period of, I need to do it all. I want to do it all. It's, I can do it all a little at a time when it makes sense for my life. And I can be flexible and I can adjust. And again, I go back to, I think I've used permission constantly in my discussions with almost every interview that I've had now, or every mom that I see as a client, because I'm like, you have permission to shift these things as it makes sense for your life. Like, and so this whole idea of, oh, I see moms doing it all. you're not seeing behind the curtain of how they're doing that either. And if they are, you know, fantastic, so kudos for them. They're probably unicorns if they're doing it and not like going crazy.
Right.
So yeah, I love that flexibility aspect of it, and it being able to recognize that you can change it and you can do a little at a time and still be very productive and still be a good mom and still be a good wife and still be a good employee and all of those things. And so I think once we, again, give ourselves that permission, it hopefully takes that pressure off of this idea that I'm supposed to be putting everything at 100%. It's 100% priority.
It's impossible. And
it's impossible.
You know, the truth is if you want to fit more in, you've only got so many hours, right? If you want to put more in, if you want to go back to school, if you want to start a business, if you want to start a new hobby, whatever, some things need to go by the wayside.
Yes.
For example, Real Housewives is totally my vice. Okay. So when I started my business though, you shift your priorities. Like what's more important to me? Because I cannot watch Real Housewives and grow business and teach. So, okay, I'm not going to watch TV. Do I still watch TV? Yeah. But do I watch as much? No. So, you know, you just have to shove off your plate what really isn't a priority anymore. And oh my God, that freed up so much of my time. How embarrassing is that? But true.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of business partners who will say the same thing. Like they don't consider it sacrificing anything. It's just reprioritizing. You've only got this many hours. What are you going to spend your time doing?
Yep. I love what you named right now, that it's not about sacrificing it. And it's how I always talk about this, like the meaning we're ascribing to what we're deciding to do. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not a sacrifice. It's in service of the bigger picture and what's valuable to me and what is meaningful to me in my life. And so for me, it's just shifting, it's pivoting, and knowing that those, like you mentioned, like those things still exist. It's not that you have to, it's not a black and white. I have to now get rid of all of this. It's just learning to figure out where it fits in the pie and how much, like I'm going to use this much, this much, this much. There's a book, it's called The Joy of Missing Out. If you have not read it, you must read it. I love it because it's like the whole concept of like the opposite of FOMO, of the fear of missing out. You know, it's the joy of missing out, where she talks a lot about this, what we're talking about right now, in terms of prioritizing and learning to appreciate that I'm missing out on the Real Housewives because I'm doing this other great and wonderful grand thing. And so you appreciate the missing out instead of sitting in that place of sacrifice and feeling frustrated by it. Yeah. And so again, it's just like a mind shift that is so important to make.
Yes, it's priorities. My friend Liz, you know, she always laughs. She's was a personal trainer. She's a mother of 3 boys, rock star woman. And I'm like, God, you got back in shape so fast, girl. How'd you do that? And she's like, I made it a priority. It's important to me again. And therefore I made it fit.
Yeah.
You make fit what's important to you.
Exactly. I absolutely agree with that, with every facet of our life, motherhood, work, like all the things. And, you know, I'm curious for you. Well, I'm curious, how did you get this mentality? Like, where did this mindset come from? How are you in this space of being seriously like the most joyful person I have ever encountered, just like in every aspect, whether it's like something hard, something good? Where is that coming from?
Well, this is when I'll get emotional. And this is, I promised you I was going to tell you something I haven't told many people. So, okay, so let's see. How do I stay joyful? It's perspective. It is total perspective. And I gained this perspective through an unfortunate circumstance twice in my life. I also have to give credit to my parents, who are freaking silver lining focused all the time. Like, they are wonderful people. I was raised by fabulous humans. But I do attribute a lot of that to, and thank you, Diane, that is like the best compliment ever. When I was 22 years old, I was diagnosed with a septic staph infection. And what that means is I was babysitting. I think I was 20. Was I 20? Hold up. It was 21. I think it was 21. It's been a while. But I was babysitting. This was in San Luis Obispo, and this headache came over me that was just like a jackhammer. to the point where I had to, almost like a zombie, I dropped the 3 kids off at their next door neighbors, and I'm like, I'm going home. And I was in bed for a week. I lost 20 pounds in a week of sweat. I'm just giving you the raw and dirty. And I called my mom, and I'm like, something's very wrong. Something is very, very wrong. And my mom has always been this upbeat, I'll take the heel of the bread. That's also where I get it. I'll take it. Good enough. She's one of 5 kids, you know, good. You're fine, Sarah. You're fine. Why don't you head to the hospital? Have them check it out. So they did. They checked my white blood cells. They were low. They sent me home with painkillers. Well, you follow your intuition. We know this as women. You follow that freaking intuition. And there was something in the back of my very sick head that said, you are not okay. So I got in my car. I drove down to Fullerton, where my Uncle Bob happened to be the CEO of St. Jude in Fullerton. Thank goodness. I mean, that connection saved my life. So I remember pulling into the parking lot. I don't remember much of it. And they wheeled me in. They gave me a spinal tap that I didn't even feel. That's how numb I was. And I found out I had a septic staph infection. And it means that it had gone so septic, that means in your bloodstream. So it's not localized anymore. It has taken over your body, that I had a 50-50 shot of living. I was in the ICU for 2 weeks. I was on a PICC line, which is an IV, for 3 months. It was basically a sabbatical from college. And I'll never forget, the priest came into my ICU room to basically read my last rites. And I remember asking him, I was like, you know, and I was raised Catholic. I was like, you know, they say, if you just say the word and you shall be healed, like, what's that word? What is that word? And he goes, oh, he was so sweet. He's like, my child, I don't know. I'm so sorry. I'm like, dang it. But I ended up surviving. And when I survived, it's one of those things that you have, it's that perspective, right? And I think the only thing that motivates us as humans is the alternative. So the alternative for me is not being here anymore. So that alternative motivates the shit out of me, where I'm like, if we've got 2 situations here, I'm really lucky to still be here. Only the good die young, right? So hello, of course I'm still here. So just being alive, it's a gift. It's a total gift. And I think that is what keeps me seeing the good, because I'm like, it could be a lot worse. It could be a hell of a lot worse. So that was super scary. And then fast forward, when I was 30, I came down with meningitis and was in the ICU again.
Oh my gosh, Sarah.
Things, you know, I don't tell people this because it's like, you know, tiny violin, whatever, but I'm grateful for those experiences. It just re-solidified, like, this could all be gone. This could all be gone tomorrow. What are you going to do about your life today? What are you going to do? You don't have to change the world, but how are you going to shift your mindset? How are you going to see your day in a light that makes you smile and makes the people around you smile? So I attribute my optimism and my outlook to that, quite frankly. Sorry to load that on you.
No, I appreciate that, because I think that what you're certainly sharing is, again, I go back to like attributing meaning to a situation, because someone could easily take those situations and just expect from the world, right? Expect that no more bad needs to happen to me. I've already gone through this shit. Like, what is going on, right? And you did not do that. You took that perspective and you flipped it on its head and you said, no, I'm going to honor my life. I'm going to create every day as if tomorrow is my last. I have no idea what's going to happen. And so I am going to take ownership of this journey of my life. And this is how I want it to be. I want to live with joy. I want to live with intention. I want to live with inspiration and spread that to myself and to everyone around me. And that's what I'm hearing you talk about right now.
Yeah.
And I think that that's such a powerful thing for people to remember, is that any situation, we have to decide the perspective that we're placing on it and how it's going to carry us forward in our life. And that's really what you're talking about. And so I'm, you know, it's one of those funky things where I'm like, I'm so glad that happened to you. And
Me
You know,
too.
would never, like you were saying, like the tiny violin. I'm like, no, I don't see that at all in that way. Like, I think it's so beautiful to share these kind of stories. I hear them all the time in the practice that I, you know, the profession that I'm in. I hear these stories all the time. And yet, like, it's one of those things where I'm inspired all the time by these stories, especially with when I'm hearing people like fight through and keep going. And I think that's what I always like teach is see, but even despite that, like, look where you're at. You're sitting in front of me right now, and that's an amazing gift for you. And so I'm so glad that, you know, of course, you've taken that and you now share your gift with the world in that way. That's so fantastic.
Thanks. Yeah, it's interesting. Because of my experience, my mom says I lack a lot of empathy, and I do. I lack empathy. I'm not a nurse, not a good nurse. Ironically, right? My husband will tell you the same thing. He's like, oh my gosh, if I am sick, Sarah. In fact, he had COVID last February. And he's like, oh my God, I'm dying. And I'm like, you're fine. Could be worse. Fine. Oh my God. I thought he had a man cold. Poor guy. The poor guy. So like, I am not a saint by any means. I lack empathy in that regard because of what I've seen. So I'm working on that. I'm working on that.
Yeah.
You know
So
what I mean?
I'm the queen of reframing, by the way. And so I don't see it as lacking empathy. I see it as you, again, encouraging and knowing that you faced hard things. And so you see people struggling and you're just like, it's not that I don't feel for you. It's that I actually see more in you. That's how I see it, right? In that you're telling them, I know you can get through this. You know, whatever that looks like for you, I'm here for it. The pity party or whatever it is, I can't stand for it because I know that there's more in you. That's how I hear it
That's
whenever
it.
I hear it,
It's
right?
like a tough love thing. I have a
Yes.
girlfriend who, she doesn't have kids, so she's already annoying to me. But just kidding. So she had a fall. She had a stumble, and she got really hurt. She's okay now. Like she's fine. Not paralyzed. What a lucky duck, right? But I remember Diane. She was like, she and I talked on the phone. Like, how are you? And I was expecting her to say, I am so lucky. I'm alive. Holy crap. I was truly, and shame on me for having those expectations. I should have checked them at the door. But I remember she was like, I went through this and no one is even checking on me. And I was like, I was shocked because for me, there's only one way out of that, which is you're alive, girl.
Yeah.
Whoa, like, what are you going to do about that? You're a miracle. You're a walking freaking miracle that you're alive today. And instead she took this left, and I thought, sayonara, I can't help you. You're down the wrong path. You got to come back. You know, it's that gratitude thing of, it blew my mind. It blew my mind because I just can't relate to that way of thinking.
Yeah. Well, but you know, you don't relate to it because I hear you doing the active work of being intentional about checking in with yourself, about checking in with your gratitudes, about being reflective of all of these things that you've certainly shared very vulnerably here about your difficult experiences, and being reminded of them in a very encouraging way. And I think that that's not something that everyone obviously is skilled at doing.
Yeah.
And sometimes it comes naturally, but you're certainly sharing with me, you know, you've got really good inspiration around you. You surround yourself around the community, whether it's with, you know, the moms group or with Rodan and Fields, the friends that you keep around you. I always talk about this in every situation. The people that we surround ourselves are really going to inspire our perspectives. And it's either going to inspire it in a really great way or in a really terrible way. So
totally
check your friends, you know, check that community. Absolutely.
It's essential, right? And as we get older, I mean, shout out to Tamra. As you get older, it's harder to make friends.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is. I don't know why that is, but it's essential, especially to make mom friends, because they get it. My mom always told me, she goes, because I lost a couple friends here. We do, right? We just loop. They kind of like, whatever, different phase, whatever. She goes, you're going to make your best friends through River's friends. Like the kids that are River's age, those are going to be your forever friends because they're going to be going through those chapters at the exact same time. You're going to have so much more to talk about. So Thank goodness for Mom Squad. I mean, truly.
Yeah.
Go
Yeah.
Tamara.
It makes a difference. It absolutely makes a difference. You know, I've got some unicorns of friends that don't have kids. One of my best friends, she doesn't have any kids right now, but she is one of those people that she just gets it. And so she'll like, she's the one, she's coming this weekend, and can hear the screams and just be like, it's fine. What do you need? Like, how can I help? But then there's this other side of it, what you're talking about. Like, I've now gotten very close with some of my husband's wives' friends, because we all have kids that are essentially the same age. There's 4 families that are part of this group that are here in San Diego now.
Yeah.
But all of us, like the kids are either the exact same age. We each have 2 kids each. And, but we've just gotten really close in this way, because there's just this, like, we used to get together and we used to just like party and like go have drinks and go eat. And now we're like in this new phase. And so we get to share in this experience of sharing the stories and the good and the bad and the ugly and the frustrated and the I'm going crazy. And it has deepened the relationship so much. And so again, advocacy for community and finding that support, even when it feels like uncomfortable to try to reach out. There's probably a mom that's feeling the exact same way that would love to hear from you. You know?
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I love that.
There's such solidarity in that. I remember when we did the San Diego Mom Squad virtual nights, because we put together, but we would do the virtual like wine nights. I felt so safe sharing the silliest, grossest, most inappropriate stories, knowing that it would be received by people who laughed and could have a story to top it, you know? Oh, good. Thank God it's not the worst of the day. You know?
Exactly. So validating, so rewarding.
Yes.
Yep. Well, my dear, I want to, I know we could go on and on and on and on, and I would love to, and I want to just be able to speak with you more directly at one of these mom nights we need to figure out. Tell me though, your top advice for moms at this moment. You know, we've talked about so many different aspects of motherhood. What would be your top advice for both the working moms that kind of feel alone, have challenges in their journeys? What's your top advice to keep you going and that you advocate for others?
Oh man, that's a great question. Well, if you're struggling, it would depend on what you're struggling in, right? But if you're struggling in any of it, give yourself grace. Give yourself grace, because I think my overarching advice for any mom in any chapter, especially newer moms, is those kids are going to learn from watching you. They're going to watch you as a woman, and they're going to learn the way that you treat yourself, the way that you talk to yourself. That's what's going to show them and teach them how to talk to themselves and treat themselves. So don't feel guilty about working out. Don't feel guilty about having to take a freaking minute and lock yourself in the bathroom. Whatever you need to do, you need to take care of yourself. It is essential. Can you imagine a world where every mom, when they looked in the mirror, loved who they saw and like loved that woman? Can you imagine the badass children we would raise who loved themselves and loved each other? Because if we don't love ourselves, we're not going to be loving our neighbor. Right. So I think my only piece of advice for mamas is love you. Do things that make you happy and smile. And if in that moment it's spending time with baby, great. If you need a break from baby, take a break and give yourself grace, because you want to be the best example, walking example for that kid you possibly can be.
Yeah.
You can't force it. You know, we need minutes. We need time. This last year's been hard as hell.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I think what you're speaking to, especially just to kind of break those myths about, you know, giving into ourselves and taking care of ourselves being selfish, like what you're really talking about is, again, this like overspill. And I've talked about this with other moms too, the overspill of when we're giving to ourselves, we are absolutely giving, again, the best versions of ourselves to our kids. We're teaching them and passing that on generation to generation around how to love yourself, take care of yourself. And then that, again, it just continues to be abundant for everybody else.
Totally.
And so I think that's constant number one advice is take care of yourself, be good to yourself, be kind and compassionate in all of those situations in whatever way that you need to be, and emphasis on whatever you need. Like,
Yes.
don't compare everybody else's need. And so I appreciate that. Thank you so much for that.
Sure.
We didn't even get into it, but I think that you obviously, with Rodan and Fields, that is an aspect of self-care. It is an aspect of taking care of yourself. I would love you to share how to get a hold of you, how to follow you just for inspiration, and your lovely faces that you're always making that just make my day every single time I see them. How do we get a hold of you?
I would say the best way is Instagram. It really is. It's Instagram. I would say Facebook, but it's just not anymore. Yeah. And so on Instagram, I'm at Sara, 4-letter word, SARA, Sara Fresh Dub, just like it sounds. Easy peasy. Yeah.
Well, I'll add that into the comments and let everybody know how to get a hold of you as well. But I just want to take this opportunity to appreciate your vulnerability, your strength, your inspiration, and your light that you bring every single day, literally. And in all these different areas of your life, from the smaller generation in the school, all the way up to the empowerment that you give to women. I think that is an amazing gift that you are giving the world. So thank you so much.
Absolutely.
You're the best. All right, my dear, I'm going to say goodbye for now, and we'll connect again soon. Okay. Bye.